Hello, hello, I'm back. This is Klew. I am doing the second part of my video on cane reduction. So this one is a triangle cane. And I'm taking it down. Waking it up a little bit. Get those molecules moving. With it snowing outside, it tends to be a little bit colder. Maybe I should have put a heating pad underneath my workboard. In my luck, I probably would have got distracted and let it set on there and cooked it. So, best I not do something silly like that. So I take my fingers and I just touch the sides ever so gently. I don't really address the top pinch, the top point. I just touch the table and the bottom edge. See, I'm already off camera. That's twice as long as when I started. Just by manipulating it, it warms it up. And the clay moves better when it's just at the right temperature. And of course my work surface is not like working on my table that doesn't have an edge. So it's a little bit more of a challenge here. It's like a jump rope. I have to be careful. I don't want to snag it with my fingernail because then I'll cut into the edge with my luck. I'm taking it down to about an inch. That looks about right. And the green part is the bottom of my triangle. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to, just for camera purposes, first we'll show you what it looks like inside. See? Lovely. So I'm going to bring the sides around and close this up. We can only do a little bit at a time. And by wiggling and pinching at the same time, it softens it just enough to get my finger dent in there. And we'll go all the way down. I usually get it in about 4 passes. Make a couple of swipes. I wasn't sure if we were going to get an interruption in our service with the power, so I thought that I would record this and then upload it separately up to the channel. Just to be sure. See how it's coming together? a little hard on my fingers. All right, now my little rock and roll. Press it. See how it closes up the seam? Going a little bit too fast. It started cracking. Can't have that. Let's seam it back up. See, it started cracking a little bit. Is it going to show? See the cracking? So let me... It's one of the reasons why I don't do a lot of caning in the winter, but I needed this. I needed to make this leaf cane because I didn't have any more like it. I couldn't wait till spring, or at least for a warmer day. Didn't know we were going to get snow today and it'd be so chilly. I don't know if this is going to make noise, but I'm going to turn my little space heater on to make it a little bit toastier in here. See if I can inspect my seam. That looks good. All right. And there you have it. So I will continue on and make the remainder. Now that it's been sitting, I'll wake it back up. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Wake up, Kane. Wake up. Yes, I talk to my clay even when I'm not on camera. That's just how I roll. Cat hair. Another cat hair. No extra charge for the inclusions. Here we go. My fingers are getting a little fatigued, so I'm going to do a little rocking and rolling on the table. I might have to do a hot wax dip before I continue. My poor little fingers. I'm doing this a long time. This is my 33rd year cane making. I like to take care of my hands. Back them up with my extra finger. It's funny, I noticed I was doing that several years ago without even thinking. See how I've put my middle finger on top of my index finger when I pinch? See? My whole body protects itself. It finds a workaround. Perfect. Sorry for the shaking. I realize I'm shaking the whole camera. This one's a little bit bigger, so I'm going to do a little reduction while I got it soft. Excuse me. Just by nature of doing the pinching from one end to another and back, it tends to get a little bit smaller, so that's why I didn't take it down further than 1 inch in diameter, or it would be tinier than what I'm accustomed to for my leaf fringe. I mean, there's occasion where I'll want to maybe reduce some a little bit more. I might as well show you how I do that. So, say for example, I have this piece and I want a little bit tinier. So it's not as easy to reduce a cane in a shape like it is a straight-sided triangle. See how it pooches out? I'll slide that off later. Somebody asked what I do with the messy ends, and they end up in many different things. They end up in my Rorschach beads and my tallywims, and if it's not a nice color combination, then it ends up as my bead guts. So the core of my beads and cabochons. There we go. So now I took this one down to teeny tiny. Well, not teeny tiny, but smaller than normal. It's hard to read it, I think, with this, here we go, it being so dark, but you get the gist. So what I'm going to do next, set that aside. This one was reduced last night, so it's a little bit stiffer. Oh, it's a lot stiffer. I think I'll save that one for later. Let me show you what I do to create my leaf fringe. I make a little bit of noise here. Get my bead tray in the way. Out of the way. So, and you can look at the face of it and change the shape the way you want it. If maybe you don't want it as fat, you squeeze the body of it a little bit more. Just kind of inspect it to make sure it's consistent. Like so. Now I don't lob off the end, I cut up to it. Let's get this one out of the way. Alrighty. Is that my, it's my other blade. I was looking for that earlier. Alright, so it takes approximately, let's just show you an example. I'm going to mark two inches. So there's the 2-inch mark right there. Just so you can get an idea of how much it takes. I'm in my own shadow here. There we go. to make a dozen. So it's not, it looks like it takes, let's cut another 12. All right, so that's 2 inches. So it takes 2 inches to make 2 dozen. So it's 1 inch a dozen. To make my leaves. So now what I do is I give them a little sculpt. See how it's, let's see. Let's get my piece of paper here so it can focus. You see how that is sculpted, shaped, dimensional. So I do that to each one. When I bake them on a piece of cardboard on my baking tray, making sure that they're not touching. And I have some other leaves that I've already baked that I'm going to demonstrate what happens after they're baked. So hang tight. Gotta make sure I pull these apart. Otherwise they won't want to come undone if they stay stuck together too long. They try to marry themselves back together. A little pinch and a twist. I like to press them down on the work surface to just to give them a nice smooth face. And having the little space heater on here has really helped keep these nice and supple, because as they get cold, they don't bend quite as nicely. I don't typically pinch and bake right after making a cane because my fingers hurt. But here is what I've got so far. Okay, so that's what's going to happen with the rest of this cane. But in the interim, I'm going to move this out of the way and show you what happens next. Let's see if I can do this without knocking things over. Oops. Oh, won't be doing anything with those. These are the beads that I baked last night. All right, so now I have, these have already been baked. I flip them over. It's just easier for me to drill them from the one side than the other. It's probably hard to tell on camera. I can tell. So here's my handy dandy Dremel. It's a little noisy. And I drill the hole. See? Then everybody's happy. I mean, it doesn't have a very high power. I can touch the drill bit with my fingers. I have it on the lowest setting. I know that the drill is in the way. I can show you at this angle. But then, see what happens? You just have to trust me that that's the way I do it. So these are used in my earrings, and then other artists use them as they see fit. Most of the customers I have are artists that do bead embroidery, so these are used in that. Often, if it's used as an embellishment with using thread, you don't really want to use shouldn't say that. You don't want to thread through directly. You want to use a seed bead, come up through there with the thread into a seed bead and back through the same hole, rather than coming out the hole and stitching